Hi there, and today I want to talk about the superpowers, the benefits to having borderline personality disorder. There is so much negativity about BPD and what kind of person that makes you. And of course, I often find that you feel bad about yourself and you beat yourself up, as well as you've probably had some really negative criticism from partners or really close friends. So I figured, it's about dang time to talk about what what makes you wonderful, because you do have borderline personality disorder. So I wrote some of them down because even I have a hard time kind of keeping track, and my whole organization, I can have a hard time. A lot on the plate right now. So there's resilience. For one, if you grew up in a neglectful or traumatic childhood home, you've had to endure through a lot of different things and bounce back, wake up, and face the world, as well as difficult relationships and suicidal thoughts and tendencies and attempts. So, which even I didn't even think about that one. I had to do a little research, and I thought, oh, geez, you know what? That is actually something that's kind of cool. That you do keep bouncing back, even when it doesn't feel like you can anymore. That there's kind of like a known strength. Curiosity. Now, this one was really neat because, and again, the thoughts were there, but it wasn't until I did a little bit of research that it really finally clicked, and it was like a light bulb turning on, going, oh, right, okay, so that's what that would be. And so you're curious about the way your brain works. You're curious about the way other people's brains work. And especially if you've sought help, you are being curious about, okay, so how can my brain think differently? How can I change my behavior if I take this set of steps in my head before I go into a difficult situation? So, that's pretty cool too. You're bold. You tend to be able to speak your mind and to just be honest and just put things out there. And that's courageous to be able to just say things the way that they are. And I mean, there is something to be said, of course, about having tact, but it is so important to have truth. And personally, for me, all I ever want is the truth. And so just that being honest as much so as I can with the people around me, regardless of how they might take it, because it's honestly what I think or how I'm feeling. And so I want them to just know who I am. And I think why that would be such a strength for people with borderline is because sometimes we don't know who we are, or we don't know the people around us. So searching for that, being genuine. You want to be genuine with the people that you love, or people who want to get close to you. You want them to know, hey, this is what you're getting into. So being bold, that is such an amazing thing. Which it can be a negative, but it is amazing and it is useful. Then there's being creative. And I mean, how many actors, musicians, artists suffer from illnesses? In a way, suffering bears life to art of all forms. So that in itself it's kind of cool and something to realize that is a gift, that out of your pain you can bring much beauty. I sew. I like to do things with modeling clay, knitting, anything creative I can get my hands on, I want to do it in some part because it's therapeutic, as well as it gets out negativity in a way. So if that's not something that you use, maybe you should try it, because you might be more creative than what you even realize. And then there's hyper empathy, where you do care so much. You're able to put yourself so deeply in somebody else's shoes that you can feel things with them. To a degree, I feel that, but not at a huge level, which is something that I personally have to work on, is I feel like I should be more empathetic. And that is cool. And I do think it's a beautiful thing when people are very empathetic. That is a beautiful trait. So that is quite the superpower as well. You can be very intuitive and perceptive. That is really cool. I think it annoys the crap out of my husband, because with such subtle things, I'm able to pick up on, okay, this is what this means, that's what that means, and I don't think he's attuned enough in his own brain to be able to listen to how I've picked him apart, and I'm asking questions. Sometimes it takes him a couple days to be able to, sorry, I got a fly driving me nuts. It takes him a few days to think about it, stew on it, and be able to come back with any kind of explanation for, say, why he was crabby. And he's snapping at us and just being overall really difficult. And I could say, okay, did I do something? Is it work? What's going on? You're doing these different things, and that usually means that something is wrong. A few days later, he goes, oh yeah, you know what? Work has been bugging me. I guess I hadn't realized that it was showing so much. So that it can be frustrating for people, but it is a really good thing. Because if you do have a loved one that is going through something, you are able to pick up on it. And one of the books I have is I Hate You, Please Don't, or yeah, I Hate You, Don't Leave Me. And that was written by a couple of doctors, and it's a really good book, but also really makes you feel like a monster sometimes, seeing just clinically how the illness can manifest. And they talked about how with the intuition and perception that it can really make your therapist really uncomfortable and be angry in some cases with you, because they know that you're very perceptive. And so if they have their own thing going on, that can cause some agitation, because they're there to be the magnifying glass, not to be under the magnifying glass. And my very first therapist, she would tug at her collar of her shirt, and it was always stretched out a little bit, and so I would pay attention to it. And the more I looked at it, the more she tugged on it, and I felt bad because I didn't mean to. But it became this vicious cycle of, I was noticing almost like little nervous tics, and she would start doing more of them. But she was really terrific, very much a down-to-earth person. So I don't think she had hard feelings, but she wasn't with me for too long before she had moved to a new practice. But so that is a really cool thing, is being that's super intuitive and perceptive of other people. And then you're also protective. And a lot of that can come because of that bad childhood, but it also goes hand in hand with like being perceptive and being bold, you then are protective. So you're gonna stand up for the ones that you love. You are going to want to protect what's yours. And I mentioned before how my children are the only thing that feels like they are mine. So I would go to the ends of the earth and fight any battle for them. And I always get, anytime I feel like my children are coming under any type of criticism, like, I feel like my hair standing up to her. It's like, what? Do I need to battle you? So, yes, very protective. And that can be such a good thing. And it can make you maybe even somebody's hero someday. And borderlines, you can be so extra, which is a good thing. So you love somebody. Your love is so rich and deep and passionate. You are going to take such good care of the people who are dear to you. And you are going to fight for them. You are going to express yourself, which, hey, creativity, expressing that love. And I think people who are loved by borderlines, I think they're fortunate, because a borderline does feel a boldness to show love, and it is so deep. So all those things are really amazing. And yes, they can have their downsides. It can be too far one way or the other. But ultimately, they are superpowers. They are things that make you so special and so unique and give you such a flavor for life that the world does need. And when I first was diagnosed, people would say, well, there's good things too. Counselors and therapists would tell me, oh, well, but, there's good things about being a borderline. And I couldn't see it. I absolutely could not see anything good about it. It wasn't until I started this channel that I started to finally think about, okay, what kind of things do I want to talk about? What would I want to hear? And I thought, well, how about the positives? I mean, gosh, we rain on the parade and say, oh, this is bad, that's bad, watch out for that. But why not celebrate some things that are great? And so in a way, that's been so uplifting to try to think about and figure out, all right, so what are some of the things that are great about being borderline? What are some of the great character traits that somebody without it, my dry husband, does not have? So it is something to be celebrated. And I challenge you to try to think of the different unique traits you have that even if a stranger thinks might be negative, start thinking about some of those different situations that it may have been actually a really amazing and beautiful thing. Because you might be surprised that you have a lot more better traits than what you realize. So, thank you so much, and I will see you next week.